Welcome back to CM's Garage, guys. We are in the garage today with a 1954 Lawn Boy RPM that I picked up from what I found in my Lawn Boy parts book. This is the 54 model. It's fairly original. It's missing the shroud, but I've got one on order, and then I'm still looking for the front grass guard here. But overall, it's in fairly good shape. Doesn't have any cracks in the deck. It's got a little bit of a dent here, but we can live with that, especially when that grass guard goes on there. What I want to do first is check for spark. It looks like we've got a coil here. We'll check for spark, and then we'll do a compression test, and we'll see if we can get this running today. Stick around, guys. Thanks for watching. So before we dig in, I'll give you a closer look. So this is actually supposed to be here. This is not a crack in the deck. I've looked at a lot of pictures. They all have that same deal. Engine's fairly complete. Got the carb on there. I'm not sure about this gas tank. I don't know if that's original or not. I haven't seen a picture of one online with that same gas tank. I've seen it with the narrower tank that I have on some of my other mowers. So I think that might have been added at one time, but it's in really good shape. It's not rusted inside, so we'll just go ahead and use that. And here's the RPM badge. And the paint looks like it's in really good shape. It's just dirty. So once I get it running, I'm going to get it cleaned up really well. I don't think I'm going to repaint it. I think I want to just clear coat over the original paint. And we'll see how well we can get those wheels cleaned up too. Possibly reuse those because they're not cracked and they're metal. They're actual metal wheels. We've got the Iron Horse rope start, the flywheel, and the handles down there. All right, let's see if we can get this to make spark. Looks pretty rich. I'm gonna go ahead and run that on the wire brush. All right, so instead of cleaning up that other plug, I pulled one of the plugs out of my other mowers that I know is good. So we'll go ahead and throw that on there. All right, so we've got our spark plug tester light here. And well, actually what I wanna do is put a little bit of oil in there first. We'll go ahead and throw a little Marvel down the cylinder just a little bit to lubricate it because it probably hasn't run in a very long time. Actually. All right. Okay, got the lights down so I could see better. And let's see what happens. Will we get spark? I don't see any. let's put the plug in and we'll try the method with the test light. All right, test light, take 2. All right, well, no luck on the spark, guys, so we will be pulling the coil off or the flywheel off and doing the coil and all that. That's fine. I expected it to probably not have spark. What I'm gonna do now is it feels like it has pretty good compression. Let's just do a compression test and see what we got. Okay. All right, it's upside down, but you can still read it. Pretty good. Good deal. So if we just get some spark, some fuel, this thing should run. So 65 pounds of PSI compression. That's pretty good for this old 70-something-year-old lawnmower. I know we've got no spark, we've got good compression. So I think what we'll do is we'll pull this flywheel off. We'll try cleaning the points and see if that changes anything. Doubtful. I bet the coil and condenser are bad, but I have a new coil and I've got another condenser on order, so we can get those swapped out if the old coil doesn't do the trick. Got the 45 back in the garage. I'll show you what I'm doing with it. I've got the 45 Farmall back in the garage. The right rear tire was completely flat and that rim had a giant rust hole. So I'm getting some new tires mounted next week. So I went ahead and pulled the rims off and the tires. I've got a new rim over here that I'm gonna take and have a new tire mounted on, and then this one will go into the shop. That rim's good, so we'll pull that old tire off, put a new one on there. But before I do that, I want to clean up these rims and spray them with a little brown primer just to clean them up before the new tires come on. But yeah, so while we're working on the lawnmower, that's a side project here. The tractor's been sitting in the backyard as like a running yard art kind of project or a display near our garden in the back. But I brought it in the garage to do some work on it. All right, let's back this nut off. I'll spray it first. There we go. No problem. And hopefully this flywheel will pop off easily. All right, I don't love having to grab this on the outside here. It's pretty delicate, so we're gonna go easy on it and see if we can not destroy the flywheel. Oof. Wow. I don't know how much pressure I want to put on here. It hasn't been off recently, that's for sure. I'd rather grab it under here. I hate to crack this. Let's see. Maybe if I put some like wood under here, kind of disperse the weight. All right, so I took this angle iron right here. We're gonna put that under there That way, when I put that puller on there, it's got more to grab, less likely to crack this. Let's cross our fingers. Let's see here. All right. Okay. All right. Now the pressure is distributed a little bit better. Let's hope this works. Jesus. Come on. I don't want to just be bending it. Man, I'm worried I'm bending it. Usually these pop pretty easily, but this one's probably never been off. All right, I'm gonna try putting heat on it. There we go. That was wild. I didn't break it. See, there you go. You can always count on that heat. Oh yeah, the coil is absolutely destroyed. Oh man. Yeah, I don't think that's ever been off, to be honest. Look at that. The keyway fell down. Look at that. That is crusty. Yeah, this thing hasn't run in a while. Pretty clean in there. We didn't break the flywheel, so, because you can't just, these aren't easy to come by. Okay, yeah, I'm going to clean those points, and then we'll definitely have to replace that coil and capacitor. So let's get, I'm not even going to bother trying to get spark with that. Let's just get all that cleaned up and replaced, and we'll see what happens. So here is the new coil and the condenser, and I've got a new spark plug wire and a boot that goes on the spark plug. So let's pull off all this old stuff, the old coil. We'll take condenser off, the coil off, we'll get rid of that, and then I'll take the points off. We'll clean up the points real well. We'll get the new stuff on, and we'll get the flywheel back on and see if we got spark. Oh boy. Yeah. That had probably never been off before. It made dust. Okay. Old condenser. And the old crusty coil that's seen better days. Now, if you've seen some of my older videos, I've worked on a few other mowers, and the governor is actually up here. This older engine has a different governor design that runs off the lower end of the engine. And as I pull this all apart after we get it running, and then I go ahead to restore it later, we'll figure out how that all works. But it's a lot more simple up here than the other mowers because you don't have the spring and all those governor parts. So it's just your coil, your points, and your condenser. Okay, there's the old wire. Got that out. All right, now what I'm going to do is just kind of clean this plate up. So we're putting these new parts on a clean surface. And then after that, we'll gap our points based off of this cam on the crank. Got our wire brush, getting that in here. All right, so for now I'm going to leave the points on here. Everything's set up. I need to clean them though, so I've got some 1000 grit sandpaper here. And we're just going to run that in here. Where it says set points 0.020. So I'm going to take my feeler gauge here, and we've got, you can see that, 0.020. We're going to put this guy in there, and they're a little loose. Okay, here's the new wire. We'll just get it snapped on here. And then we'll feed it up, and we'll have to cut it because it's clearly too long. Okay. What I'm going to do is we'll get the coil on, and then once the coil's on, I'll know exactly how much wire I need. So there's a clip under that goes under there, so I'll go like. All right, so I ended up pulling the coil off. I think it's easier to do this where you got some leverage. And then we're going to line that pin up and push the, yeah, there's no way I could have done this with the coil in. Then you got to twist it too. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, now for the condenser. All right, I think I got it to fit. I rotated the bracket the other way. We'll see here. All right. Okay. So there's a little pad over here that runs on the it runs on the cam that runs on that the points run off of. So you're supposed to have a little grease on that. It's called your oiler. So I'll dab a little grease on there, and that'll oil up that cam. All right, so the way I know that my spark plug wire is connected to the coil correctly is we're going to use the continuity meter. That tells you if you've got connection. So we're going to put a lead into the spark plug wire, and then I'm going to go to the front of the coil here, and I've got 0.939. So that's telling me that there is a connection from the wire to the coil. So I know that that connection that I made there is good and that it didn't come undone. So now we're going to tighten up our spark plug. We're going to put the flywheel back on, and we're going to put that tester light on and see if we've got spark. Crossing the fingers. Right there. And then I am going to put some grease where the crankshaft goes into the flywheel. That way it'll come off easy, because I guarantee you we'll have to take it off at some point. Got that flywheel greased up. Oh, I wanted to clean the magnets in the flywheel before we do that. So I'm going to just take some sandpaper, clean that off real well. All right, we'll line our flywheel up with the key here. Okay. Hope that's the blade hitting. All right, I'm going to get the mower down on the ground because I think the blade is hitting the wood blocks I got this on. Okay, so turns out the positioning, it wasn't the coil that was hitting the flywheel. It was this being mounted sideways. As that magnet would pass around, it was hitting this. So this has to be mounted vertical. This doesn't have the right bracket, so I got to figure out something. Okay, so I rigged up. I put a little L bracket here, and I've got the capacitor just zip tied here. So I put the flywheel on real quick just to see, and it does clear. So this will be temporary. I'll get the right capacitor that has the vertical mount, but for now, we're just seeing if this has spark, and will it run? For that sake, we'll just go with that for now. All right, we've got our key here. Thought I lost it there for a second. And let's put this on. Make sure this all clears. There we go. Nothing's rubbing. All right, snugging up our flywheel. And now we'll get those lights off. We'll put the drill on it and see what it does. You guys watch that. I'll keep an eye on it too. Oh yeah, we've got great spark. You guys see it? Get you in here a little closer in case you didn't see it before. See? All right, guys, now that we've got good spark, let's get the gas tank off because we're going to start pulling the carb. I want to take a look at the bottom end of the crank, of the piston and the crank. And well, I hope I can get to these screws here. Yeah. All right, so actually the carb can be removed without removing the gas tank. So, because it's kind of a challenge with the flywheel in the way. And I got this busted up rusty air cleaner out of here. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this red plate here at the gas tank. The carb go on. All right, I've got the 2 screws out that hold this plate that goes into the gas tank. Now I'm gonna take the carburetor bolts off. Now we're gonna get this carb off. Okay, I'm gonna finish this up and then I'll have you come back to you when we pull all this off. Almost there. All right. Whoa! Almost lost it. The heck? Got the governor disconnected. There we go. All right. There's the gas tank carb assembly. Well, that looks pretty clean in there. That's your throttle governor. I'm assuming this is your mixture lever. And then your choke. So we'll get this all taken apart, get it in the ultrasonic cleaner. But first, let's take a look at the bottom end and see what's going on down there. All right, so I'm used to working on the later Lawn Boy motors, and when I say later, like the 50s ones, but this is your reed valves, I believe. And on the later motors, like the mid 50s and up, this is actually like screwed on, but this just kind of pops off. So we'll see what that looks like. Get you zoomed in here. If I can get, there we go. All righty. Okay. And now I gotta get some new gaskets. All right. So those are your reeds. Those look pretty good. So now you can see the crank in there. Yeah, this is gonna run good, guys. So now the next step is get into that carburetor and get that all cleaned up in the ultrasonic cleaner, get ourselves some new gaskets, and go from there. Might have to make some gaskets, but I've got a bunch of material. I can do that. So I've got the ultrasonic cleaner out here and the carb and gas tank and mounter up on the bench. So let's disassemble this and then we will put this in the ultrasonic and get it cleaned up. All right, I'm going to take the bottom of the bowl off here. That's really clean. It looks like somebody was in there at one point because that is not varnished 2-stroke gas. So at some point somebody was trying to get this mower going, I feel like. So let's place this in the cleaner. Let's get our float in out of here. Float's in decent shape. Gasket looks pretty good. Take our jet out of here. Let's see. Looks clear. Hard to see on camera. Just cut this fuel line. Oh my God. Woo! That is hard as a rock. Okay. There we go. All right, so we've got it mostly disassembled. I think this is good for now, at least to put in the parts cleaner, and we'll see how clean we can get it. And then, yeah, I'm gonna put this in there too. Let's get this gas tank mount out of here. All right, we've got all the carb parts in the ultrasonic. I'm gonna fill it with water and some degreaser. There's degreaser and water. We'll fill it up to about the top of the basket. All right, so we got our temperature set and our time set. So now we're gonna run it for 25 minutes, see how it turns out. Okay, let's take the parts out of here, see how they cleaned up. Gas tank. See if I can fish the carb out of here. Yeah. Cleaned it some. There's still some crud on it there, but I can get that off with the wire brush. Yeah, definitely looks better. Still some gunk on there and here, a little bit there. We'll get that. Well, this stuff is still loose. If anything, it really loosens it up. Yeah, that's pretty good. Nice. If you don't get the result you want the first time, you can always So, 25 minutes in the ultrasonic and a little bit of elbow grease with the wire brush, and that came out pretty darn good. Like new. That's gasket material. Just gotta scrape off that. This one we might actually get away with using again. Okay, so I got the surface mostly cleaned up here, and I need to make a new gasket at the base of the engine here. And then we'll go up to the bench and we'll reassemble this carb. I blew out the main jet with some carb cleaner. We've got that screwed in here, and I'm gonna put the metering valve back in. Drop this guy back in, and then we'll get our float back in here. Should go this direction. It's looking good. So we are gonna put the carb back on. I made my homemade gasket here. See how this works. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of gasket maker on here. All right, we've got some on here too. carb. Got our fuel line hooked up to the gas tank, and we'll hook it up to the carb here. All right, guys, well, I think the 1954 Lawn Boy is ready to run. Let's just recap the project here. We got this mower. It was fairly complete, but we determined it had no spark. So we got that flywheel off. We changed out all the ignition components and cleaned those points. And then it was time to clean the carburetor. So we pulled that off, put that in the ultrasonic cleaner, got it all sprayed out with carb cleaner, put it back together. We've got our fuel tank just temporarily mounted there. And I don't know, we'll see. Will it run? Let's give it a shot. It's like it wants to go. Well, there you go. It runs. It just, I feel like I have no control over the throttle. And I feel like this throttle is just super loose and there's air leaking through here, which is just making it kind of run wide open. So I need to mess with the carb and see if I can do something different there, because it just kind of runs away. And even putting the choke on doesn't do anything. So that means that there's too much air getting through. So I'm gonna pull the carb off and check that out. So I went ahead and put one of the later model carbs, and when I say later model, I think this is a 55, a year later, on the mower, because I know this one works well. It was functioning pretty well last time I used it. So I went through it real quick, just sprayed it out and cleaned it a little bit. I'll show you what the issue is with the other one. All right, so here's the carb that came on it. So you can see, I don't think this throttle lever, see that copper piece in there, is right for this mower. Because there's way, there we go. There's way too much play here, and there's air that gets through there. So that's just gonna lean out the mixture and make the throttle lever just not effective if the air just sneaks past the butterfly in there. And you can see there how much play. There's probably a 1/16 of an inch on all sides of that. And this just kind of flops around in here. That's why it's just running at one speed and I have no real way to work the throttle, as you saw when I ran it. So I'm gonna get the gas tank on here and we'll try to fire it up with the carb that I know is functioning. For now, I've just got a lever hooked to the throttle, and this is the governor on this engine, which I'm not quite sure how it works yet, but we'll just try it, just throttling it ourselves. Okay, let me get the tank on and I'll come right back. Here we go. I can tell already that I can control the throttle. All right, so that was the choke on, choke off. So it runs really well with the choke on, but with the choke off, it's not. I'm not sure what that's about. All right, it's running great. It finally started running there a little bit without the choke. Let's see what the spark plug looks like. Yeah, I've got a really thick oil mixture in there, so it's definitely oiled up. That's all right. Extra oil is good, especially when you're starting an old engine like this. Yeah, so now that we got it running, let's spray it down and see how it cleans up. We'll take it out and get the hose on it and scrub brush. See if we can get some of this grime and grease off. Let it soak a little bit. To wrap the project up, my shroud came in. It's in really good shape, nice patina, no cracks. Shroud's made of magnesium too. It's not, it's cast, or cast aluminum. It's not a stamped piece of sheet metal like the later lawn boys. So that being said, I could see them getting cracked pretty easily, and this one is in great shape. So now let's take it out and do a little mowing with it. Well, thanks guys for coming back to the garage for another video. I hope you enjoyed it. The 1954 Lawn Boy runs. We had to do a little work on it. That ignition was no good, replaced all those parts. We got that carb cleaned, and it still had issues with the throttle linkage, So we got the 1955 carb on there, and it's running great. We'll see what we do with this in the future. Maybe we'll tear it down, completely repaint it, and get it looking like new. But for now, I need to get back to the 64 Beetle. I've got some work to do on the tractor. So thanks guys for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe and give me a like. I appreciate it. Thank you.